Frank Noé, Chair of Computational Molecular Biology, Freie Universität Berlin. Understanding the building blocks of life with supercomputing.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I would like to take you to a little voyage into the human brain. And if we look on a length scale below 1 millimeter, then we see neurons, the brain cells, and their connections between them, synapses. So this is the realm of neuroscience. But I want to go one level smaller and zoom into the cell. This is a size of about 100 nanometers, so less than 1 millionth of a meter. And here you see proteins. This is actually about the resolution limit of optical microscopy. So with a microscope, you could not see anything inside this box because this is essentially 1 pixel. Now, this is a simulation, and it shows you these proteins. Proteins are essentially building blocks of life. They are machines with a task that involves, for example, involved in growth, in movement, in communication, metabolism, etc. Everything is driven by that. And proteins need to find and bind each other in order to communicate and in order to give rise to these functionalities. And now we zoom in even further and try to understand this important process in more detail. And now I zoom into this 10 nanometer section. And basically you here see a drop of water, mostly water. And now we simulate this system. So you see a lot of atoms here, and we compute the forces between each pair of atoms. And then we move the atoms a little bit into the direction of this force. So even 1 step for this entire system is expensive. Now we do this 100 million times. So this is ridiculously expensive. And then you get this kind of trajectory where you see 1 protein sort of attaching to the other, but not quite yet binding, because we haven't simulated long enough. And for many years, this was the main problem of my field, that we were basically stuck being unable to sample the timescales that are necessary to do anything interesting here, even with supercomputers. Even if we used a full supercomputers for weeks, it would be by far too little. And this has really changed a lot in the last few years. And this is due to the convergence of some technologies. But first I show you the movie. So this is now a movie from a simulation which is 1,000 times longer. I just show you a part of it. And I speed up the clock. And now on this time scale, you see this protein basically searching the surface of the other one and eventually finding the binding site, which is the green thing, has to go into this cradle, if you like. And then the proteins are really bound. And besides positive function, like building up something, this attachment of 2 proteins could also lead to diseases, like Alzheimer's disease, for example, is aggregation of proteins, essentially. So you can easily imagine how many implications understanding this process has and how important it is for biological, medical, but also material sciences. Why this breakthrough? It's basically the convergence of 2 technologies. On one hand, we have supercomputing, and in particular the broad availability of low-cost, highly effective, programmable GPUs. And NVIDIA has contributed a lot to this availability, for example. And this gives us basically a computing power in our field that is a factor 10 higher than by normal hardware per euro or per US dollar. And that's, of course, in many cases, the relevant unit. On the other hand, we have new mathematical methods. And many of these were actually developed by people here in Berlin, Christoph Schütte, Peter Deufelhardt, also Delnitz has contributed, and we have contributed by algorithms and estimators. And the key idea here really is that these new algorithms kind of understand the nature of the problem, and they give you a way to divide and conquer. So they give you a way to split this very difficult problem into pieces and to distribute it on an almost arbitrarily large computational resource. It doesn't stop by 2 proteins. Now the challenge is to try to understand assemblies which we see are overall present in biology and are very important to drive the function of cells. And essentially all simulation and even experimental techniques need a huge amount of computing power, some more than others. And eventually, what we always need is new and better theories to harness this computer powers. Because without theory and algorithm, no computer is useful. Thank you very much.